welcome back to another episode of D-Ray's Garage, where today I'm finally going to introduce you to the new-ish to me, new-ish to you, 2007 Aston Martin Vantage V8. Now, being English, I should be able to conduct this entire video with the finest British accent I could muster. But after 20 years of being surrounded by all these American accents, this is what's left. I'm a limey Yankee redneck, and I don't think there's any escaping it. I will try and drop some wonderful British accent in there now and again. And bear in mind, I came from North Yorkshire, where they talk like this, and they're all funny, and you won't understand a bloody word I'm saying. So, I know, who knew? So anyway, here in the 2007 V8 Vantage, I'm going to throw in some great exhaust shots and hopefully some beauty pics. Now, it is impossible to mask the beauty that is this vehicle's design. The whole design language of this thing speaks to people young and old, regardless of gender, race, or otherwise, and age. And I can't tell you how many people I've noticed, even in the last month, that look so closely at this car that it's a head turner. And I'm not going to pretend it's the best car I've ever driven, but it is extremely fun and it is extremely gorgeous. And inside and out, it's a fantastic old school analog V8, and I'm dubbing this the British Corvette. If the V8, the obnoxiously large engine size, specifically for British motoring, or anything to go by, that seems to be the closest analog I can come with if we're talking about crossing the pond. The brief story about how this came to pass is I had back surgery in late 2019. At that time, I was laid up pretty good and spent a lot of time on the internet. And as all those car people tend to do, I wound up shopping. Facebook saw me shopping and just kept tossing cars in front of me. And the Aston Martins caught my eye. Now, I didn't really know one Aston Martin from another, and I'm getting better at that. They don't do a good job of completely breaking apart the design language, at least from some angles, and you may disagree. But again, I'm not talking about the discerning eye here. So, I kind of just got hooked. I got hooked on the idea of owning British vehicle, as much as you will see. My key says Volvo, the radiator fan says Jaguar, the side mirrors say Volvo, but I honestly only think that adds to its charm. I'm not going to let that get in my enjoyment of this vehicle, and any of the haters out there, go ahead, bash away. That's your prerogative, absolutely. Other than that, you know, this thing comes off the line with a V8 in there at 385 horsepower. I'm not sure exactly on the torque figures. I'll throw them up on the screen because it's just easier. And this particular car has a Velocity AP2. I want to say that's who did it. And it has some aftermarket two-piece wheels that I like. They look really good in person. They look okay on film, well, on camera. Maybe on video they'll look a little better too. And then, as you can hear, the exhaust is aftermarket, and I did do the recent 30-second mod of the car of pulling fuse 22 in the back of the car, which basically means that the valves are permanently open. And the reason I did that was not to be obnoxiously loud. It was I did not enjoy the transition from, I don't know, roughly 2800, 3200 RPM from being relatively demure sounding to a fire-breathing dragon. I just thought that the step up was just a little bit aggressive. So, that's what the car came to me with. I paid $35,000 US for it, private party, and gasp, shock horror, I bought an Aston Martin on Craigslist. Yeah, I know, you can't make that up. Now, I don't know if you want the whole story or not. I'll try and give you an elevator version. The elevator version is I bought this car on Craigslist from a Canadian physician who resides in Arizona 50% of the time. And in doing so, because he makes all his money in Canada, and the Canadian dollar, at least at the time of the print, is not worth much next to the US dollar, he brings in cars, some he'd like to own, some he just plans on parlaying on to obviously improve that exchange rate, but he did want to own the Aston Martin. So he brought this in August of 2019. basically Christmas time of 2019, and that's when it appeared on Craigslist. Now obviously pre-purchase inspection is a very critical element of an acquisition like this, even at the bargain deal, because a bargain deal is only a bargain deal if the cost of acquisition is not exceeded by the cost of ownership. So pre-purchase inspection, so I wanted to look at this car. It was priced right. Manual was very important to me, to have the manual stick shift, the 6-speed. As much as the auto manual is the same internals, the auto manual shifter itself is not the best reviewed. Now I've never experienced it to know. I probably should have driven one. I hear that some of it's technique, but nonetheless people tend to bash it, even those that own it. So I'm going to assume that it's not everyone's cup of tea, to keep it in theme. But I missed out. So the guy said, hey, I'm sorry, man. This because he said, hey, I'm out of town till X date, around Christmas time. It made sense. So I hit him up as soon as he was done with that, and the date he gave me. And he said, oh, somebody's already expressed interest. And so I pretty much got it sold. So a week goes by, I get an email that says, hey, you know, I'm coming back around to all the people that expressed an interest. The individual who wanted the car doesn't want it anymore. So, yeah, I know, alarm bells are ringing, red flag, don't buy that car, Daniel. So I call the guy up, I'm like, hey, can I come see it? Because no point worrying about it until you've seen it, right? That's step one. Step two was, I figured I could quiz him a little bit about what exactly transpires that caused this individual to not want this anymore. What the issues were the passenger window wouldn't go down, which apparently it did when they sent it to the inspection, so that was odd. There was, what was the other piece? Oh, the brake fluid was dirty. I mean, honestly, if that's the best they could come up with, like, that's definitely not the reason you wouldn't buy this car, right? So, give me a second. Look at this. So I was like, even D-Ray can handle a brake fluid change. And you already saw that. Was basically a non-event from what I could tell. Now I couldn't see it. I had to take this individual on faith. Seemed like an innocent enough guy. He had me come check out the car at his home, or at least what he told me was his home, and it was. It turned out to be. But you know, obviously you just got to get your radar up just to where you have your wits about you. Now I was having issues communicating with this individual. I was texting because I was anxious to see the car, and the text just wasn't working, and it was so frustrating. So what do you do? And I know you youngsters won't get this, but I called him. Sugar! Yeah, I called the guy, and he picked up the phone, and we talked. It was amazing. It was very efficient. So you should try it if you haven't. Went down, did all the work. Well, I said, look, here's the issue. Can I drive it for a longer test drive? I said, can I take my wife out and do a date night? You can drive her car, because he had expressed an interest in our car. Not because we were selling it, but he wanted to know what it was like to drive, so it was an easy swap. So we switched out cars and did a date night test drive, and Amanda loved it too, which was great. But then when I get back, I'm like, hey, can we just use WhatsApp? Do you know how to use WhatsApp? Because your text isn't working, and I suspect you've got an issue with your phone provider, and that failure was both ways. He couldn't text me, I couldn't text him. So after the date night, get back, and I'm like, hey man, let me deposit the money with you, and then I'll arrange financing next week early, and we'll make the deal. And I'm like, do you agree to the money? He agreed to the money. Shake hands, away I go, enjoying the rest of my weekend, excited that I'm about to own this car, and very anxious to get it in my hands now. Monday goes by, meet this individual at the bank, do all the processing, get the loan funds all deposited over, life is good. So it turns out that weekend, the individual who did the pre-purchase inspection was trying to get a hold of the original, the seller, because he wanted to buy it, and he was just, I guess, lollygagging. Or the good doctor's phone failed him too there, which left the opening for me, who was willing to pick up the phone. So I think there's a moral in that long-ass story. I don't know. You can decide that. So why did I buy this car? Why didn't I get rid of the Porsche? Well, this is what and I don't think this is an original thought. This is what I dub a gentleman's racer, or a gentleman's race car. I don't even remember, you see, I can't even steal stuff properly. But it's a very comfortable ride. I love the interior, it's just classy. It's got leather everywhere, all the stitching is in great shape, everything's buttoned down nicely. This does not have the atrocious Volvo GPS system in there that is often complained about in this era, in this vintage of Vantage. Vintage of Vantage, that's mine. Just came up with that. The dials in here are superb. It looks like a watch face. Absolutely love that. Even though the tack goes in reverse, turns out it's not as confusing as I actually thought. This is a very analog car. It's got the manual stick. It's got some conveniences, but it doesn't have Bluetooth, although many do. It does have cruise control, but it's very basic. It's got a radio, it's got a CD player, which is great for a phone mount, basically, these days. And AC blows cold. Ultimately, it is still a driver's car, and that was the big appeal. The Porsche is my lower weight modified car, and this is mildly modified, as you heard earlier. But the idea of this is it's a date night car. It's in the summer, I know, believe it or not, in the summer in Arizona, you really don't want that bikini top, because it's just not going to keep the heat out of the car. So this will be a nice summer car where I can blast the AC and play the radio and be very comfortable, so it'll be nice for that. And I think that these cars have bottomed out on their price. I think they'll hold at this level or very close for some time. Maybe particularly on the manual stick shift versions, but time will tell on that. But here's one thing that I don't think will ever go out of fashion, and that is this body style. Now, I could be proven wrong over time, but like I said, if all creatures great and small love looking at this car, including myself, although I did get one thumbs down from a nasty truck driver getting on the highway one time. I'm not sure what that was about. So the beautiful shape, it catches everyone's eye. There's something, I think it's the golden ratio is what it's referred to, which is how this is part of a design element and how this is put together. And that design ratio, that design language, apparently is something that humans are particularly drawn to. And if that was true whenever they developed the golden ratio, maybe it'll be true in the future too. Not that I really care, because again, I buy my cars for me, and I think this is fantastic. It turns out to check all the boxes. Now, I was unsure when I first owned it, the first few weeks. You know, you always get a little nervous. Is it gonna fail me? Is it gonna do this? You know, the window was problematic. The handbrake was finicky. That's actually turned out to be a technique thing. There is a little squeal on the wheels I got to figure out, but again, these are very small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. As far as the clutch goes, what I was trying to say was it's a super heavy clutch. It doesn't wind up very quickly, and so that's just the weight of the flywheel trying to catch up with everything. And so that is a change that I'm not used to. So you either hold it in high revs to keep that energy up there, or you just don't try to rev match and do all the cool driving stuff. It's so much more tolerant and torquey down low that, you know, right now I'm in 30 and I'm cruising here and I get 4th gear, and it'll pick up, it'll dig out of here, whereas in the Porsche I would always drop the gear at least a second just to dig out, and it's fun. So it is a different drive to the Porsche, which is important to me because I was looking at 911s for the longest time. You saw my video with Dennis of Car Fanatic, where I think I was in 6th. Well, maybe I did need to dig out of that one. But so I'll post that up there so you can see you know, what my impressions were of the 911. But more than anything, I think it was too close to what I already owned. Anything that I would be willing to pay for currently was so similar to the Porsche I own and love. I think it would have been really redundant. And so this took away some of that redundancy, and it has proven that that's actually the case. I don't find it repetitive. They are different beasts. Their main similarity is 2 seats and a German block, interestingly enough. But otherwise, yeah, I don't find them to be identical. So there you have it. In a nutshell, That's the 2007 Aston Martin Vantage. Tell me what I missed below. Tell me what you think I should be talking about with this car. And moreover, what could I do without going bananas? And I will be doing the dual clutch or dual plate lightweight flywheel whenever this clutch craps out. So what else should I be doing? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if that's your jam. Hope you enjoyed it. If not, be memorable, be well, stay healthy, wash those hands, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.